Adia Victoria, a Southern Gothic album review. Let's chat about it. Hey guys, what's going on? John here from What's Spinning. Here to chat about this latest album from Adia Victoria, South Carolina based singer-songwriter who, with her debut album Beyond the Bloodhounds, honestly caught me off guard. This was a bluesy, soulful alternative country album, but what caught me off guard was the fact that it had the charm of a singer-songwriter album, but it also had the haunted nature of a sort of Southern Gothic album. And between her performances, which were pretty stunning, as well as her genuine appreciation for the roots of Delta blues and old school country, this was an album that I really ended up loving. Now, her follow-up album, Silences, this was a totally different album. This was a much more true blue Southern Gothic album. It had this sinister vibe floating throughout the whole thing. And yes, it was not as easy on the ears. It took a few more listens for me to really enjoy, but I did. And leading up to this album, Adia's music just really, this was just right, like the perfect time for this album to come out. I thought the singles leading up to this album were really hypnotic and dreary and almost dreamy and psychedelic at times. And you know what? Most of this album is really impressive. This album starts off with Magnolia Blues, and right off the bat, I love how rustic and dusty it comes off. Like, there is such an appreciation in Adia's music to the roots of folk and country as well as the blues. And that's what makes a lot of this album so good. There's nothing flimsy here. There never just seems to be something done for the sake of a slight sound. But yeah, Magnolia Blues, this is right where I want to hear this album start off. It has the dreary gothic nature to it, but it's also charming at times. I'm all for this. I mean, I may sound pretty basic right now, but this just gets me in the mood for fall. On the other hand, I could take a sound like Mean-Hearted Woman all year round. It's bluesy, it's dusty, it sounds ready for, the latest season of True Detective. Everything is so sharp here. I love her performance. It's just so ghoulish, so haunted. But she also sounds really pissed off, and rightfully so. I love that. And that bluesy electric guitar solo, yes, please. Then we get You Was Born to Die, featuring Kashona Armstrong, Margot Price, and Jason Isbell. I think this is the best track here. This track gives me the damn goosebumps, and I mean, what a lineup. Everything here is so well done. Every performer brings something to the table. I mean, they are absolutely so soulful that it's getting the little hair that I have left to stand up. And it's just so raw, so heavy. Even Jason Isbell's very electric guitar solo that pops in at the end. Yes, please. It's such a simple formula, but man, does it work. Whole World Knows, on the other hand, just all around is a little bit easier to take in. It's a little bit more breezy of a folk jam. It's as far as a more singer-songwriter feel goes from Adia, you're not going to find much better than this. It's really charming, but it has the drama of the rest of this album and the intensity too. Troubled Mind once again brings in, her deep appreciation of Southern blues once again. And while yes, it's a far cry from that, you could definitely feel the roots here. It's dark, it's dreary, it's practically psychedelic at times, but it builds really nicely, and I just love how bluesy and gritty it is. Personally, for my taste, I think this might be her best album. And I'll be honest, at first I wasn't that into Far From Dixie. I just felt like some of the vocal effects the first half of this track just were not necessary. But they don't stick around, and what follows is probably some of the most hypnotizing material on this whole album. Between her very lush performance and the strummed instrumental, there's a lot to really get lost in here. Honestly, I don't have that much to complain about on here. I think Please Come Down, though, is probably my least favorite track. There's just this thick veil on so much of this album. And it just kind of comes off here, and the result is a very light and airy folk tune. Something like what we heard earlier, but man, I don't know, this is just not scratching the itches. Her very bluesy performance is still commendable, but I don't know, this just to me seems very flimsy. And Deepwater Blues, it's a shame because I think lyrically this packs the most punch, and you can tell so much of this track meant so much to Adia. But once again, this kind of folky ballad is just not what the doctor ordered, not in my book. Her vocals also don't match the intensity of the rest of this album. Outside of that, though, this is just the sort of dreary, doomed little Southern Gothic and folk album that I needed right now. We also get My Oh My featuring Stone Jack Jones. Honestly, this might be the most overtly dark and tortured track here. Is it ever effective? It is so surreal, so visual as well. Carolina Bound is a real late album treat. Once again, it is an old school sort of bluesy jam, but it is fueled entirely by Adia's performance. But I think it's just updated enough to really stand toe to toe with the rest of the stuff that I've heard in this vein this year. And honestly, South of the Winter featuring Matt Berninger of The National is a really nice finale. I will say this, it's not as moody or dreary or dark as a lot of the earlier tracks here, but it's a really nice duet, and honestly, not to sound cliche, but it is very nice for the early fall as well. And honestly, her and Matt have a lot of chemistry together. Much more than I thought they would, and some of their vocal harmonies are a real treat. Yeah, this is a very, very solid album. Like I said, I think what fuels this album and Adia's music in general is just her genuine appreciation for the blues, classic soul, classic country, and all that and more. It has all that, but it also has this deep, dark, cinematic vibe of a Southern Gothic album, but it has the charm of, a singer-songwriter project. And between her performances, some really solid guest spots, I don't know. This is just, rubbing me the right way right now. I'm enjoying this quite a bit, more than I figured that I would. I'm feeling a decent 8 on this album, but let me know what you guys think down below. If you like the video, be sure to give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let me know down below what you would like for me to chat about in the future. And until next time, have a great day, guys.